Hello to you all out there in YouTube land. Obviously, another behind the scenes episode. Let me get rid of the screen real quick. So hello to you all. Really good to be here. I just had a little bit of extra time, so I thought, hey, let's just throw the camera on and do a video for you guys. So for those who are not watching my stuff on social media, I know a lot of you on this channel do not use social media at all, which I'm always amazed to see those comments. But that being said, I dropped a story today, short and somewhat sweet, about new documents that I'm going to record a small segment on. So that's primarily what this is. Now, let me switch over to the comments here. One of the comments, one of the up top was the title of the video, which was DoD, OIG, UAP. I don't know where it is. I don't see it on my screen. But anyway, and then I put ... and with a question mark. And they were asking what that meant. There's no surprises there or any hidden anything. The way that the behind the scenes works is that anything really goes. And essentially, I just kind of turn the camera on and see where we go. So the intention is that I record one, maybe two, maybe three, whatever it might be. Today it's one segment, and then that's cut and later dropped within a day or two. But then also I kind of open up the phone lines, let you guys essentially steer it, for the behind the scenes stuff. This is just something fun that I started a couple weeks ago and really kind of took off. So for those who have never seen it before, this is number 3. Where, again, you just kind of see a little bit of behind the scenes. So with that said, I have the window up, and going back to what I said about the different, the story that I dropped today and the different segments that I record here. In short, the segment that I'm going to record here and then drop later is about that DoD IG PowerPoint presentation that deals with the UAP, what they called evaluation. Now, we'll go more in depth in the segment, but that's what you're about to see. So I record that first. You'll see bars and tone run. That gives me an edit point when I drop everything into the edit bay, because sometimes these videos go on long. I have about an hour to an hour and a half, and then I have to go and pick up my son. So I'm happy to hang out with you guys. If you want to call in, I'll open up the phone lines. Super chats are open. That's a way to support the channel. Those also stick out off the corner of my eye, so I can actually see. Dolan's bar already up in there. Thank you for that. Keep it coming, buddy. I really appreciate that. You've been a big supporter of this channel. 100% of what comes in through that super chat goes right into the website, 100%. So if you're not aware of that, I always do like to point that out. Same is true with the Patreon. So if anybody's interested in supporting on Patreon, you can do that as well. So thank you, Dolan's Bar, for that. While we record the segments, also, if a super chat or something sticks out or non-chat sticks out, I will do my best to take a look at those and see, what I can pull into the actual segment, and then once I cut it together, you'll be in it. So that's kind of fun. It's a neat way to take part in that. Now, somebody says that they're trying to call. I don't have the number on the screen yet. I also don't have, oh, you know what? I think I have myself on Do Not Disturb for that reason. So I'm not sure how that will work. I'll turn this on for now. But I will open up a toll-free line. I'll put it on screen for you guys. That way you can call in. I generally don't do the call-ins for the segment. So that being said, you won't have an opportunity there. But after, if you have a question about it, feel free. Maybe I'll plug it in somehow and do it that way. So let me see. This might come up too, which is fine with me. When Dolan has to refer you to his paywall, you won. John Poe. Thanks for the comment, John. For those who aren't following that drama, there was an interview on Fade to Black last night. Obviously, I have put out a public invitation for Richard Dolan for appearing on this show and on this channel for a respectful conversation, just like I did with Jay from Project Unity. I've kind of been ignored for 2 years, at least 8 attempts that I'm aware of that I reached out and made the offer before I did any Wilson Davis videos. But he went on Jimmy Church last night. There was a wide array of comments about what happened. and what was said. To clear up a lot of questions that came into my direct messages on social media and so on, I was not invited. So that's unfortunate. I don't feel that I was, my view was properly represented, and it was definitely misconstrued. Whether that was malicious or not, it doesn't matter. Sadly, that was not fair. So it's like you're having a debate with one person, yourself, and making up what the other side said, and that's not cool with me. But that's what happened. So obviously a lot of people are commenting on that today, and if you guys have any questions on that, when I open up the lines, we can definitely do that. One of my favorite people in the field, Christina Gomez. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you for that, Christina. Very sweet to support the channel. If you're not familiar with Christina's work, please definitely click on her profile link there in YouTube and subscribe to her channel. She does some great stuff, great interviews over there. I've had the pleasure and honor of appearing on her show in the past, and she's doing great work over there, really passionate about what she does. So make sure you check her out. Space Cow, I love your channel and all the hard work you do. Thank you for that. Very, very cool. It looks like obviously from Canada, so thanks for listening. And speaking of international audience, just kind of a sneak peek for next week before we get rolling on this segment. For those of you in Australia, which I'm guessing it may be early morning, I know I've got a lot of you that tune in from over there. I will be hitting your television next week a couple times. Now, the interviews are confirmed. I don't know offhand right now if they want me to advertise what the shows are, so I'm going to hold off doing that. But just a heads up, I'm shooting 2 interviews next week, one on Monday, one on Wednesday, and when I'm definitely confirmed to tell the show, I will convey that. I just don't know if they want that advertised yet. But I'm excited. I love the people of Australia. I always get amazing letters over there. There's been a couple shows I've appeared on, and it's just so amazing to see the international audience and how people take this topic in very different ways. And that to me is such a fascinating aspect to this. So, for all of those that are listening in Australia, hello to you, obviously all around the world as well, but excited to be on your television screens next week. So let me get this off. Bear with me here again. You're going to see bars and tones. That just helps me again with edit points. I did see this out of the... Hold on one second. I'm not even going to pronounce that. But what is the beef with Dolan? No beef. So just to quickly clarify, I believe that the story about the Wilson Davis documents is wrong. And so digging in even more, in short, there was an NRO document which I feel is adequately at this point destroyed as a hoax. No one has been able to refute it. And to my surprise, I think now people are accepting it's a hoax. Accepting it as a hoax now creates a gigantic hole in the story that nobody wants to address. And sadly, with last night's interview, and I say sadly, I wasn't able to properly, give my viewpoint. I feel it was a little misconstrued by Richard Dolan. So there's no beef. He has an open invitation to the show. Sadly, I'm just ignored about that with those invitations, but he spoke a lot about my viewpoint on that. So, no beef. He's got an open invite, and it would be a respectful conversation if he ever does want to take me up on it. But that's in short. We could talk about more later on. And last one I'll take here. Thank you, GD, for this. I'm not sure if that is Australian dollars. If so, hey, we do have somebody from Australia, so thank you for the support no matter what. Elizondo said if he was a betting man, he would bet on the IG lookup into rogue UAP programs that may have captured UAP and be trying to exploit them. Well, the E word is very interesting because that was revealed today in the documents, which we're about to get into. And no, Dolan's bar. That is a different Dolan. Not this Dolan. That's right. No, this is Richard Dolan. Totally different. Dolan's bar, though, thanks again for all of your support. So sit tight with me, guys. Again, there's a behind the scenes, so there's sometimes a very rough transition. And if you don't like tone, plug your ears for 10 seconds. It's always fun. All right, bear with me. Hey everybody, John Greenwald here with theblackvault.com. So today, if you did not notice or don't watch on social media, I dropped some new documents that I got from the Department of Defense's Office of the Inspector General. Now, for those of you who pay attention to all of the news stories, obviously things happen very, very quickly around the UFO UAP topic. The DoD IG's connection to all of this is that they announced that they were going to be doing an evaluation about how the Department of Defense has handled the UAP topic. Now, this is something that really didn't have a whole lot of detail. And I wrote this short article, dropped it today. I want to go over it with you guys really, really quickly. Let me just go kind of straight to the documents and tell the story this way. So let me close these error messages here. So this was the Freedom of Information Act response letter. Let me zoom in so you guys can see it a little bit better. That's a public address before some of you write me frantically and say I exposed myself. I don't mind publishing that address, so that's okay. This is the response letter. Now, I didn't put this in the article, but I'll tell you guys a quick backstory about how this came up. After the UAP report by the Director of National Intelligence was released, the result of that was me filing over 50 different cases over the next 4 or 5 days from the report's release to all the different agencies that were listed in there and then some, including not a Freedom of Information Act case, but what's called a mandatory declassification review on the classified version of the UAP report. In essence, it mandated them to review it. The quick update on that, by the way, for those keeping score, there is no update. Sadly, I keep pressing them. I was hoping to get something by now. I was told I would likely get something by now. So at this point, we're quote unquote on borrowed time. But that's another video and update in itself. I hope I do get something on that. However, in that process of filing all those different cases, what's very interesting was that case connected to the UAP report had yielded something that I wasn't expecting. And that was a group of documents about the evaluation that the DoD IG had announced. Now, let me jump to that announcement, which you guys have seen. This was the May 3rd, 2021 memo that was sent out. And this was essentially, I'll read this for you. We plan to begin the subject evaluation in May 2021. The objective of this evaluation is to determine the extent to which the DoD has taken actions regarding unidentified aerial phenomena. We may revise the objectives as the evaluation proceeds, and we will consider suggestions from management for additional or revised objectives. We will perform the evaluation at the offices of the Secretary of Defense, military services, combatant commands, combat support agencies, defense agencies, and military criminal investigative organizations. We may identify additional locations during the evaluation. And it goes on with some administrative stuff from there. Now, this was it. There was no other indication of what this was. Now, this is different than the UAP task force. This is different than the UAP report by ODNI that was released. So this is a completely separate thing. There's been a lot of rumors about what that means. Did it involve Luis Elizondo? Is this the IG investigation that Luis Elizondo has talked about? A lot of rumors. And to be honest with you, we just did not know. Even though we still don't know the answers to all of that, this document release shed a lot more light on what this evaluation was. Now, let me scroll back up. I know I'm kind of going out of order, but the reason why I wanted to jump to that memo was to kind of remind you guys what this was all about. Now, going through the Freedom of Information Act release, this is exactly in the order that I received it, meaning documents. And you can see here that it is a string of emails by a whole bunch of redacted people. Only one, who's Randolph Stone, that was visible. And I think it was because his name was already connected to this in a public sense. So there was no reason for privacy issues to remove his name. Everyone else, however, was essentially removed. This was about what they called a management entrance conference, which specifically focused on the evaluation of the DoD's actions regarding the unidentified aerial phenomena. You can see here it was an unclassified teleconference meeting going to be held at 10:30 a.m. on June 30th, 2021. As far as I'm aware, none of this was public knowledge. I hadn't found this anywhere, and so this was all new. In this email, again, everybody was essentially redacted. And here's the message. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are scheduling a primary management entrance conference for June 22nd, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. We are also scheduling a backup management entrance conference for June 30th, 2021 at 10:30. There's only a need to participate in one of the two sessions. I will send out the invite for June 30 shortly. Please note the meetings will have different dial-in information. Now, this was sent out by the Space, Missile, and Nuclear Team, DoD Office of the Inspector General. So that was who was essentially leading the meeting and essentially is taking part in this evaluation of how the DoD handles the UAP topic. Administrative stuff I'll skip. I will, after this video, link below so you guys can see the exact documents. Now, here is the memo that I already went over. So that was attached to the FOIA release. I also assume that was attached to the emails as well. There's Randolph Stone's name, so his name was public. Again, why they don't redact anything when it comes to him. This was page 2 of that memo. That was just who it was sent to, and everybody was there. This was the surprise. This was the gem of the Freedom of Information Act release. This was what you can deduce as a PowerPoint presentation. Now, I want to note one thing that I don't see a lot, which doesn't mean anything, but it's just not commonly on documents a lot, which is CUI, and you can see it's crossed out. That is controlled, unclassified information. So even though that information is classified within U.S. government or U.S. military holdings, sometimes it'll have a CUI designation where it's controlled. So essentially they treat it as classified is the easy way to put that. So didn't hold a classification, but it was still controlled. Evaluation of the DoD's actions regarding the unidentified aerial phenomena entrance conference. Controlled by Department of Defense, Office of the Inspector General, controlled by Evaluations/Space, Intelligence, Engineering, and Oversight Directorate. So obviously they are leading the charge on this particular evaluation. Scrolling through here, and again, this is the PowerPoint presentation that I assume is kind of broadcast throughout this meeting. I won't go over every word just because I think that there's more administrative stuff in here that, you know, may put some of you to sleep, and it's not the juice I know that you're here for. But essentially, they go over the agenda. They talk about the DoD Office of the Inspector General, essentially how they operate. You'll see those slides in a minute. The project team and leadership, objective of the evaluation of the UAPs, our evaluation process, how they do everything, and then going forward. Scrolling through, this is the stuff I'm not going to spend too much time on, but in this management meeting, they kind of break down what the DoD organization is. So I'll zoom in here so you guys can see it. It's essentially how the OIG breaks down within the DoD and branches off into everything else. So during this meeting, obviously, they're going to go through that. Same with the Inspector General Authority. So they're going to, essentially go through what the IG is all about. So tell management, this is who we are, this is why we do what we do, and so on. So again, a little bit more administrative. This is where it got interesting in the presentation. Project team and leadership. This, from what I can deduce here, is going to be who is managing the UAP evaluation. Also, information that's not known. Again, the scope or the size of the team and leadership positions. So you've got here at the top, Mr. Michael Roark, Deputy Inspector General for Evaluations. That's a name that, again, maybe I'm missing or forget something, had not heard of before. Randolph Stone, we've already gone over him. He's the one that sent out the letter. Then you can see everybody else is redacted and withheld. So there's absolutely no idea at this point who they are, but you can see where they are and the roles that they play. So Space, Missile, and Nuclear Division, which I know many of you are going to have fun with the fact that that division is playing a role in this. Space, Missile, and Nuclear Division, all hot topics. within UAP conversation. Sensitive Activities Division, Intelligence Division, Research and Engineering Division, and then it breaks down the project managers, evaluators, and an auditor. So gives us a little bit of insight about how big this operation is. This is, or I should say evaluation, not op, but essentially how big the team is. This isn't one guy just kind of sitting down evaluating. It has what appears to be a very sizable team. Objective of the UAP evaluation. The objective of this evaluation is to determine the extent to which the DoD has taken actions regarding unidentified aerial phenomena. We may revise the objective as the evaluation proceeds, and we will consider suggestions from management for additional or revised objectives. That sounds familiar. That's directly from the memo. So nothing new there. This is where, yet again, it started to get a little bit more interesting because it was new information. The scope of this evaluation will include offices of the Secretary of Defense, U.S. Special Operations Command, U.S. Central Command, the services, combat support agencies, other defense agencies, and the MCIOs as it relates to the actions taken to detect, collect, analyze, exploit, and address UAP. That, to me, is one of the more interesting revelations from this document because the true scope of the evaluation was never known. They just said they were going to evaluate the DoD's actions. But what does that mean? That they're just going to look into what? How the press office worked? Lots of speculation there. But with this, it actually showed actions taken to detect, collect, analyze, exploit, and address UAP. So that gives more insight on the actual evaluation. We will conduct this evaluation by requesting information to understand the history, roles, and responsibilities, and any documentation regarding UAP, including policies and procedures for reporting UAP and reports generated by DoD and subordinate organizations regarding UAP. Another bullet point, conducting interviews and site visits as necessary to obtain clarification regarding policies, procedures, guidance, and actions taken to detect, collect, analyze, exploit, and address UAP activity. And finally, analyzing data collected and interviews conducted. If you ask me, that's a bigger scope and bigger target than I was expecting with this evaluation, because apparently, according to this anyway, they're essentially looking at every aspect of how the DoD has, even in the past with history to the present, how they've handled UAPs, how they've potentially exploited them, how they've looked into them, analyzed the data, collected the data, so on and so forth. That to me is a huge revelation because we didn't know that in that detail. This is how they're going to do it. Evaluation fieldwork, data requests, interviews, site visits, documentation review, and analysis. Okay, then they're going to do a draft report, 5 days, to provide clarification to verify the factual basis. The draft report itself, 30 days. So again, this is after the, in my opinion, after the evaluation starts. So 30 days to provide official management comments, include whether you agree or disagree with recommendations. If you agree, provide an implementation timeline. If you disagree, provide the explanation. We will respond to your comments. The final report, your responses to the draft report are included. 30 days to provide comments. We will respond to your final report comments. Final reports are provided to the Secretary of Defense and Congress. Obviously, lots going in this. Here's the timeline. Very frustrating aspect to the timeline. The project announced was May 3rd, 2021. That's the date of the memo. The conference that this PowerPoint was displayed at, June 22nd, 2021. Site visits, they didn't say anything. Exit conference and discussion draft, no date, they redacted it. Official draft report, they redacted it. Management comments due 30 days after the release of the draft. So that would be the redacted date above that. So add 30 days. Then the final report redacted. Now, quick explanation on the redacted because it is frustrating. Will I try and appeal it? Yes. Always appeal, always appeal. My FOIA people out there, always appeal. If I haven't stressed it enough, always appeal. Will I win that? Likely not. And the reason is I bet you that the dates that they have are estimates, which from a legal sense, and this sounds stupid, but this is sadly how it works. From a legal sense, it would essentially be a draft. So they're drafting a potential date that a draft report would be submitted, and that date itself is still kind of being deliberated. Maybe it's August 1st, November 1st, maybe it's December 1st. So the fact that that's still being deliberated and morphed, they are not locking themselves into it. So that's exemption B5. So you'll see here, if I zoom in, that exemption B5 is that internal deliberation. So is it frustrating? Yes. Do I get it? Sadly, yes. Never like to say that I support a redaction, but it's not that I support it. I just understand it. The way ahead. The way ahead, data call, responses to requests for information, due date included in request. Begin teleconferences with the pertinent organizations, including Office of the Secretary of Defense components, service components, combat support agencies, and MCIOs. And then they have a slide for questions. So that is the presentation. This last page was just kind of a blank email, likely where the invitation went out or the attachment, irrelevant there, but there you go. So clearly we have some more information. We have a better understanding of the scope and what they are going to be doing with this evaluation within the DoD OIG. Now, is there anything groundbreaking in here other than the scope? Of course not. But what this does for people like me and all of us who want to research this and use the FOIA, now we have a blueprint to the paper trail that's going to be created. Before, we had to assume what that paper trail was. So for those who kind of like a background behind the scenes look at how I deal with stuff like this, is you have to start chiseling away at the documentation like this. And even though this is great in the fact that it gave us new information and new details that were never before seen, it also serves a bigger purpose. And that bigger purpose is the paper trail that's going to be connected to this timeline. That we now know that there's going to be a lot of discussion about the draft report. We now know that there's different stages within that leads to a final report. Will all of that be public? Well, TBD, who knows? We're going to find out all together. But that's what these timelines and these documents are all about, because it now generates a blueprint for all of us to work off of to go after information. So just to give you some insight about how I look at documents like this. Awesome information, got a good look, but it's that blueprint that's more important. So that said, this is John Greenwald Jr. Until next time. Oh, we froze there for a second. Sorry. See that behind the scenes? I'm going to have to sign off again. Give me 1 second. I don't know if you guys got that translated, but my screen froze. Bear with me here. All right. So just so you guys know, since I'm cutting this anyway, I'm signing off this segment. I'm coming right back to you. So hold on 1 second. Don't leave the room yet. I'm just frustrated that broke right at the end, but that's okay. Give me 1 second. I'm going to figure out a breaking point here. So that's what's important about these documents, is that you see the timeline, and that is your blueprint to go after additional material. So we got a lot of revelations, we got a lot of cool new material, but it doesn't stop there. This put a blueprint in front of me on how this entire process now is going to work with this specific evaluation, and it's that information that will be golden moving forward. And if they give me a problem and say, we're not going to give you this, or we didn't do that, I can appeal based on these new official documents. That's why stuff like this is fascinating. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. This is John Greenwald Jr. signing off, and we'll see you next time. All right, that gives me a break. So I'll edit that out. Bear with me here, guys. See, that's kind of fun. You can see how much crud I have to deal with when you edit and do these things, because my screen totally froze, and I couldn't get there. So bear with me here. All right, let me switch back to the comments. Okay, I wasn't really able to, and I had a caller there, so if you saw me kind of look up, I was just muting the call just simply because it would have kept coming through. What I will do now is put the number back on. I'll open up the phone lines for you guys if you want to call in. I have a little bit of time, so we'll see how much that we can do. That you guys must have it written down because I don't think I have that anywhere else. So good for you guys. And I'm happy to take some calls. If there's anything on what I just went over, that's fine with me. What I'll go ahead and do is potentially splice it in. If not, maybe make a small segment or something like that. That way we can add it to a bigger show. So let me go to the phone lines. Who's this?
Hi, hello. Is this me?
Yeah. You're live on the air. Who's this?
Hi, sir. My name's Sal Governale.
Hi there. How are you?
Doing fine. I just wanted to ask you a question. Just try to find out your opinion if you thought Howard Stern has a big penis.
Oh God, this guy again? Seriously. Should I blast his number out there for you guys? I'm sorry, I took my finger off the button to get a pen, or I would have cut him off before he got there. Why do people do that? Like, why do you... Here, I'll grab the number. And his name was on the caller ID. So I don't get it. I really don't. Anyway, he was the guy that called and hung up. So he apparently really wants to, like, crank call 1990s style Howard Stern. So here's another one. We'll go here. All right, who's this? You're live on the air. Don't let me down.
Hi, Mr. John. My name is Stephanie. I'm a veteran.
Hi, Stephanie.
I worked at the Pentagon right before 9/11, sir. I worked on the quadrennial defense review before I went out to do the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Section 4 was completely refurbished right before 9/11, meaning since the Pentagon is a historical landmark, they can't tear it down. So they basically gutted it and refurbished it right before 9/11. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw them put the new steel in, the bomb-proof, fire-proof windows that was put into Section 4. Now, listen. The day before 9/11, John Rumsfeld announced that missing money from the military budget. The Army Budget Office was in Section 4 that was directly hit on 9/11. They were the ones that were handling the missing military budget. So,
yeah,
I knew 9/11 was an inside job from day one. Because when I'm in the ground zero, that's what we call the court, the middle of the court of the Pentagon, when we worked there, and you would see planes flying in to Reagan to come in for a landing. And where I saw where that plane, in quotation marks, I do think it was a missile that hit the Pentagon that day, where that plane hit and the Army budget was taken out, I knew something was up that day. That was all a narrative to cover up for that missing money. And
well, let me jump in, Stephanie, and first let me say thank you for your service. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of my audience. In regards to the 9/11, it's been a while since I've looked at that. I have heard about the construction that was going on, and obviously I still, after quite a few years of filing, have open FOIA requests for Rumsfeld's statement about the missing, what was it, trillions of dollars, like some ungodly amount of money. You may not like the next part. I'm not a big advocate for the inside job theory. I've spent years looking into different documents and stuff like that and trying to find the angle, and I just never did. So you may not like me on that front just because I don't go down the inside job route. But I can tell you this, is that I even 20 years now after 9/11, still doing FOIA requests, have had the Rumsfeld related request open for years, looking for information on that. So however that turns out, I'll absolutely bring it to you.
Yeah, but I personally think that this missing money that was reported, I think it went to the black ops such as UFOs, stuff like that. Because, John, I've been around military all my life. I've raised out of Veterans Affairs. I worked at the Air Guard for many years, and I worked on missiles and stuff like that, and bombs and stuff. And, I think that missing money went to Black Ops military gear, because I have had so many UFO sightings, and I know that what I've been in around military aircraft, not a civilian, what I see in the sky is not any known aircraft. Either A, we have reverse engineer alien technology, or B, it is alien.
So tell you what, Stephanie, because I'm definitely open to more information. In the chat on YouTube, I'm going to put, and this is for everybody, that's why I'm putting it in the chat, my direct email address. Definitely, reach out. I'm happy to talk to you more about it and explore whatever avenues you feel I should explore, or maybe I've missed or overlooked, but I'll put that in the chat right now, and then feel free to grab that and definitely drop me a line.
I will do that, because there's a lot that people don't realize, and that's why I always come back to the conclusion that 9/11 was an inside job through and through. Because linking to that, and that what I saw that day when I was stationed at the Pentagon, and what I know, it all ties together, John. It all ties together.
Well,
there's something deeper.
Yeah, and I appreciate the phone call. Definitely open to speaking to you about it. And I'm a tough sell on the inside job, but I'm always interested in more information. So I look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks again for your service. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I know that we all have mixed feelings on 9/11, especially here 5 days after the anniversary. It always becomes a hot topic, and I'm not popular in some circles because I don't do the inside job theory, and which is something I've maintained for quite a few years. So hopefully that doesn't turn some people off. I know that the whole inside job thing is incredibly controversial, but it is what it is. I'm always open to new information. All right, let me grab this call. Who's this?
Hey, John, this is Sayed. Big fan. You're doing awesome work.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Quick question. It's a two-parter. One, you've been obviously exposed to a tremendous amount of information that you've shared with us, and you've a great amount of study over the phenomena. How would you rate your personal belief on the possibility of there being alien visitors, either manned or unmanned? Is it greater than 50%? Is it less than 50%? And then my second quick question, do you have any tips for a new dad of a baby boy?
Hey, congratulations. How old is your baby boy?
2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. Well, honestly, congratulations. That I want to start
Thank
there.
you.
It is a fun journey. You are in for a heck of a ride. A lot of smiles, a lot of tears, a lot of frustration, a lot of happiness. It's an emotional roller coaster. My advice is just find as much patience as you can muster and double it, because it's going to be challenging, but not in a bad way. You meet those challenges as a dad, and man, it's an amazing experience. My son is now 7, and and that's the other thing. Value every second. It goes like that. It really truly does. So patience is key, but also valuing every moment, because sometimes I hear dads. I'm glad I've never said this with him growing up, because I think myself growing up, I kept hearing, oh, it goes really fast. Time goes really fast. And sometimes I'll hear dad say, man, I can't wait for this stage to be over. I can't wait for this stage to be over. And sometimes you might catch yourself thinking that. Don't wish it, because it will be over much quicker than you think, and you'll miss out. And you go, man, I want to go see my kid's eyes at Disneyland again for the first time, or, whatever those firsts are. So definitely just...
So true.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. I'm already kind of spending as much time as I can. I mean, working from home is a definite blessing right now.
Oh, good.
To just be with him as much as I can.
Yeah, that you got to find the blessings in disguises here during COVID, and that's definitely one of them. So I'm glad you get to spend and see those moments. You know, the first everything. You know, so that's good. So that's my advice there. Your first question about the alien potential percentage. Am I above 50 or under 50? I would definitely be above 50. I really have focused a lot on the information and the verifiable evidence and documentation that's there, with a special interest in the government side of all of this. And in short, when you have, a list of UAP definitions, let's say military craft, space-based objects, astronomical, whatever, you kind of like start evaluating all the different potentials. And the alien topic, the alien potential, is not scratched off the list. And in fact, you can scratch off some of the easier ones, and alien becomes one of the very few left. Am I 100%? No, but that's a personal thing for me. I need to see to believe. But I can tell you that the verifiable evidence, not leaked material, official documentation, official stories, coupled with general population stories, you look at technology that is quite possibly not human. And so I can't scratch that off. And for those viewers of this channel, watch me long enough. If I can scratch something off the list, I will. And I've got no problems doing that if the evidence is there. With the extraterrestrial connection, it's definitely above 50%. It's definitely strongly supported. There's a lot of question marks that go along with that, but to kind of quickly give you the answer, definitely much higher than 50%. The evidence, I feel, is strong enough to say that.
Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate that response.
You're very welcome. And
thanks for
honestly,
everything you do.
Oh, I appreciate that. And seriously, congratulations. Good luck. You're going to have a blast. Give me a call. Let me know how it's going. Grab my email from the chat. If you have any questions, give me a call. Don't hesitate, because you're in for a wild ride, and we expect a phone call when you and your wife announce baby number 2. Because you may say it's not going to happen, but take it from me, my daughter is about to turn 3. So go take that for what you will. So I'm looking forward to the phone call. You're very welcome. You have a good day. Ah, man, so cool. 2.5 weeks. I remember that. I haven't slept since my son was 2.5 weeks, so that's good. All right, couple chat things here before another call comes in. I'm going back a couple minutes. This was about the 9/11 thing, or at least I believe it was. John, being the great fence sitter that he is, laughing out loud. All right, Optimus Primal, I wanted to grab your comment here, because I assume that this was about the 9/11 thing. And the reason why I wanted to comment on it was I'm not on the fence. And why I say that is I'm a pretty outspoken voice that I don't believe in the inside job 9/11 conspiracy. So I don't sit on the fence. I say no. But what I am willing to do is, if somebody is writing me that used to work in the Pentagon during 9/11 and they're convinced of something, I'd be stupid not to hear someone out. So I look forward to hearing from Stephanie and appreciated her phone call. Is she going to sell me on the theory? Like I said, it's going to be a tough sell, but that's definitely, I wanted to comment, not a fence sitting position at all, but I rather like to think of it as an open one. Rather, I'm saying no, but I'm always open to speak to somebody, especially a servicewoman who worked in the Pentagon during 9/11. DT, thank you for your support. Doesn't the use of the word exploit on the OIG slide presume the existence of non-U.S. technology, since you wouldn't exploit your own technology? So someone at the OIG is savvy enough to look underneath that stone. Absolutely. Exploit could be a couple of different things, whether you're exploiting the technology itself. This is where my conspiracy brain takes over, exploiting the topic itself. I've said it 1,000 times and I'll say it 1,000 more. The counterintelligence value to the UAP topic is massive. This is a big value to them that they can use, that they can exploit, that phenomena, whatever it might be, to their advantage. Play dumb when they're not so dumb. Play smart when they're not so smart. You know, again, you can muck up the waters from a counterintelligence standpoint very, very easily with the UAP issue. So I saw exploit in a couple different ways. You can also exploit that physical technology. And yes, let's face it, I don't think everything UAP related is US tech. I believe it's a possibility. I believe it's a possibility that we are dealing with a China or a Russia or something like that. And I believe it's a possibility that you're dealing with a much higher intelligence, you know, something that's not of this earth, if you want to say it that way. So I think you deal with it in a couple different ways. There's no solid answer. There's no number one definition. It again is across the board with what it could be. So appreciate that comment and especially your support. So thank you for that. Let me grab this phone call. Hi, who's this?
Hi, this is Eric.
Hey,
and
there. Hey,
first
Eric.
off, I'd like to just say that I appreciate you staying objective on everything, and just kind of keeping it real. As a huge skeptic, I follow your stuff, and just really appreciate you, staying true to that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
But I guess what my question is, well, as you know, we're the devil's in the details when it comes to any reports or what you're going in with for FOIA requests and all that stuff. So I was wondering, like, have you ever, or has anybody really considered going into like some of the more nitty gritty stuff? And what I mean by that, I'll use the example of the Phoenix Lights, just because it's an easy one to do. There was a lot of reports of the base going on lockdown, Luke Air Force Base, and also the fighter jets being scrambled. If maybe there's been FOIA requests on like maybe flight logs of if there was any emergency alerts or anything like that. If there was you could get like flight logs or any orders from higher officials or anything like that, and kind of as you put it earlier, kind of build that blueprint to the paper trail to then be able to press for even more to the story. And if this, just would apply to, any and all reports that have, good information, such as Phoenix Lights.
Yeah, so in regards to the blueprint, if I understood your question correctly, yeah, I mean, that will allow me to really push into those different aspects of what they're going to be doing. When you get into draft reports and stuff like that, draft documents are largely exempted under B5, and you can appeal it and try. So that stage in their blueprint may be very difficult to push on, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into a draft that I try and find ways to essentially extract. So you may not get a draft report, but you try and get other information that may be in that draft report, and you just try and find clever ways to go at it. So hopefully I understood your question correctly on the blueprint, but that really, really helps focusing in on what you can go after within the DoD IG, because if you don't have that blueprint and you're not entirely sure what to go after, it's a fishing expedition. And one thing I think I said in the beginning of the segment, I may have forgotten to say it, but I wasn't going for anything related to the IG evaluation on UAPs. I was going after DARPA communications with the UAP task force. And in the process of doing that, they had discovered these documents, which they felt were somewhat responsive to what I was looking for. Then they forwarded them over to the IG to review, and they released them today. So in plain English, what that means is that I was going after something completely different based on the blueprint that I felt stemmed from the UAP report published by DNI. And the reality was I got something completely unexpected. So that's why, you push as hard as you can, but also you never know what you're going to get.
I guess I should specify a little bit. This isn't, strictly, pertaining to your earlier segment. This is more just in general. If you could build smaller details on, a lot of things that that may not seem important at first could then lead to more and more information leading down the road. I mean, I know that I'm definitely not the only person who have thought of this. I just haven't seen anything, like verified. For instance, like if, again, going back to Phoenix Lights, if there was, in fact, a scrambling of the jets, if there was, in fact, a base closure or lockdown, like as we all know, like, the picture you've got on screen now, like that's almost 100%, the flares that they first say they were just illumination flares.
Right.
That was at 10 something p.m. But the actual sighting happened at 8 something. Like even just looking for anything before 10 p.m. or in that time frame, just getting little stuff is something that would take, I mean, months if not years, perhaps, to even build up a case to then be able to push for, like, okay, well, if this happened and this happened and this happened, then how can you explain that? What is that? Like just something that's like pilot reports, flight logs, alone.
Yeah,
could
so
lead towards a lot more things.
Yeah, and so the nitty gritty details, which a lot of people that like the ones that kind of attack me say I get stuck on, that is what this is all about, because those nitty gritty details really tell the story. So to prove my point, I pulled up the page, which I think you are looking at on the screen as well. What I did was I went after the flight logs, tower logs, and stuff like that to try and figure out what was going on that entire evening. And so instead of narrowing in on a certain time frame, I was kind of blanketing it for the entire day and night. And what they had told me, and this letter has become fairly well known now, this was the first time that they addressed the Phoenix Lights and the fact that the Pentagon tried to say that it was aircraft flares. But when I talked to Luke Air Force Base through FOIA, I got this written response that said, our staff did not state that the cause was aerial flares. In fact, we don't know where the question of aerial flares came from. There have been a number of accounts of the 13 March 1997 incident that alleged Air Force involvement, and we have made every effort to ensure that callers understood that we were not involved in that incident. They went on to say that they had no planes in the air. So those are the types of minutia details that really make or break a story. I mean, some media outlets will go and just get a blanket statement or something from a spokesperson. But when you really go after those fine nitty gritty details, that is what makes or breaks a story. And it drives people nuts. I fully admit that. You can tell people say Greenwald gets caught on these little details and who cares if it doesn't match up? Look at the bigger picture. Well, you need to look at the nitty gritty details because that is what makes the bigger picture. And I think some people out there definitely miss that. In this recent debate with the Wilson Davis stuff and this and that, again, it all ties to the minutia, the little details of any particular story. And whether it be Phoenix Lights, whether it be the UAP report, whether it be Wilson Davis document, whatever, those little details absolutely matter and are crucial to making a story true. And so through FOIA, that's what I go for. And sometimes it is boring as heck because you go through hundreds of emails, let's say, trying to prove something or discover something. And out of the hundreds of emails, it's one single page that actually creates a story. And that's why I love the details. Boring as heck sometimes, I fully admit, but it's what really makes it.
No, I'm 100% with you. I don't think those nitty gritty details are boring at all. You're exactly right. That's what makes the story. And without those, like, there's no way to verify anything. So I'll let you go, and I appreciate you taking my call.
Of course, anytime, man. Thanks for calling. And of course, thanks for the no Howard Stern joke. I'm still stuck that guy, after all these weeks, is like, has he been sitting there by his phone, like waiting to call again and do his Howard Stern joke? I don't know. I can't. It's ridiculous. So anyway, I hope I answered that last caller properly, but that is something that I truly do believe in wholeheartedly, the nitty-gritty minutia details in these stories. Because let's face it, some of them, they aim to change the world, and that's why the nitty-gritty details matter. And just as we wait for another call here, or wait for the next call to come through the queue, but for those of you about the Wilson Davis, question mark, because that's been a hotbed topic on social media. I haven't seen it obviously in the last couple hours, but that's been something pretty hot today based on Richard Dolan's interview last night with Jimmy Church. Here is the overall takeaway, that although I was frustrated to see what I saw and heard last night, what I want to press is this, and it sounds like, or it appears anyway, that those biggest advocates that these leaked notes are a true story. They relied and have relied on Greer's story that involves this NRO document. And I feel that now that is a proven hoax. And to my surprise, at least UFO Joe anyway, is kind of conceding like, yeah, I can dismiss it and it doesn't change my story. What they're missing is it actually does change the story wholeheartedly, like across the board, it changes it. They claim that this was not the root of that story, and it is. They also claim that it's not mentioned in the Wilson documents, but it is. Not by reference to an NRO document, but rather what the actual information is that's conveyed in the NRO document, allegedly, is listed under MJ12, crash retrieval, alien bodies, whatever it is. I don't have the notes in front of me, but it's like in the first page or two that original 1997 April meeting between Greer and Wilson and Mitchell and Miller, that meeting confirmed the MJ12, the UFO cabal. That is all what Greer is claiming that NRO document accomplished. So that, I think I wanted to at least address that to those who care still about this debate, because it is a hot topic today on social media, that when you look at the Wilson notes or Davis notes, whatever, of course, it doesn't say NRO document, but it puts in the first page or two exactly what Greer has always claimed that NRO document is and what it had achieved by giving it to Wilson. So all these guys that are advocating for these things being real can say what they want, but they have to rely on that document. So now, again, I think Joe's conceded that it's a hoax and he's moved on. Richard seems like he's standing firm that it is what it is, and what I say or said about it didn't matter. I think he called it irrelevant, but it's not irrelevant. And so the last point I'll make, and I'll go to the phone, is if you take that NRO document out of the equation, which again, to Joe's credit, I think he's conceded that it's likely a hoax, or I don't want to speak for him, so please check his social media, but I think what he has said is he can take it out and it all still makes sense. And it doesn't, or at least not until new information arises. And that new information, I'm not sure what it will accomplish, but it has to accomplish this. If Mitchell and Miller and Greer went to Thomas Wilson without the NRO document, so you're taking it out of the story, what did Wilson go out to try and find? He based it on what? What code names? What words? According to Greer, it's that document. It all hinges on that. So we're removing that. What did he go out and try to find? And you can't, in the same breath, say that Admiral Wilson went to Dr. Eric Davis and said he was upset that he didn't have access to these special access programs, that he found 4 of them. They confirmed alien technology and alien whatever and craft not made of this world. And he had access to all of that. But in the same breath, you're saying he was denied access, and you're still also saying that he was able to blindly start calling people over the course of 45 days. People in his Rolodex? I don't know. And just going, all right, this is Admiral Thomas Wilson. Do you guys have any alien crash saps going on? And the guy that doesn't have a need to know, which upset him to no end, is told what? Over the phone? Yes, we do, sir. And he's told that, what, 4 different times? And then he gets to take a flight out to one of the contractors to hear more information in some vault somewhere. So you can't, those things they don't go together. You can't say that. So again, I go back to, if you take the NRO document out, what did he use as a starting point? And if there's nothing, and he just started blindly calling, then the biggest advocates of this story have to say that he just got lucky 4 times to discover 4 different SAPs, alien, that confirmed the biggest world-changing revelation ever. He didn't have access to it. He didn't have a need to know, but people just told him anyway. That's what happens when you take that NRO document out. So it does matter. All right, let me go to the phones. Let me have you turn the volume down in the back. Who's this?
Oh, hey, how's it going, John? This is Sneaky Toaster. You and I have kind of engaged with one another on different chat streams before, I believe.
How are you?
Yeah, hey, sir. I'm very well, thank you. Just kind of, watching the stream. Again, as always, thanks for doing what you do, continuing just hitting the system as far as the FOIA requests. I had a question, though, because it came up right. I know I recently asked in one of the streams, specifically with dealing with the DIA, right? All of the pending requests that you have.
Yes.
I believe it was upwards of over 60. Is that accurate?
Off the top of my head, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, if not more.
So, and I've never requested FOIA, and I probably never will. Just saying, I probably never will. But if I go to, say, the DIA's reading room, right? Because there's a FOIA electronic reading room.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look at the FOIA logs, the last log is 2018.
Yeah.
My question to you is, has there not been anything more recent than 2018 as far as, officially kind of disclosed or loaded to the DIA's website? To me, that's super interesting, right? In the sense of, you have a lot of pending requests, and I didn't know if they were logging them somewhere else, because, even if I go into, say, 2018, I can see your name actually, not necessarily pertaining to, say, UAP, but you were asking for something in 2018. I do find it very ironic. There's multiple John Alexanders out there as far as names, but, as we're all well aware, the retired Colonel John Alexander was, has kind of come out and publicly said, his involvement was, with the NIDS and, all of that. But I just find it interesting, in 2018, there's a FOIA request by a John Alexander. Again, could be a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
But it's very interesting because it's specifically that John Alexander is asking for things on UAP and the Bass era and everything like that. So I'll let you speak. That was just one of the things that I found interesting, because, again, I've never really been on the DIA's website as far as for looking at FOIA stuff. And the FOIA logs, again, they kind of end, what I would say, abruptly in 2018. So I'll let you speak, and thanks for fielding the question.
Of course. Yeah. And so let me address that really quick. So in regards to John Alexander, it probably is him. I believe he does dabble in FOIA, but I'm not 100%. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the John Alexander that we all know and love.
Sure.
So it's probably one and the same. When it comes to the FOIA reading room and the DIA, let me put this on screen. So I collect FOIA logs directly myself, and the way that it works is you have to essentially request the logs. It does not end in 2018. I guarantee that that's just the last time they've updated their FOIA reading room. And not only the DIA, everybody is so sorely behind with updating their FOIA reading room. A lot of them haven't been updated in more than a decade. So when the Electronic Freedom of Information Act passed in '96, and then fast forwarding to various FOIA amendments and stuff like that through Obama's administration and beyond, they wanted agencies to start putting electronic collections of their documents online. Some are really good at it. Others are really awful at it. And so the FOIA logs are an easy way for them to throw stuff out quickly and maybe fulfill a mandate or something. I don't know if there's a specific mandate if they have to put X amount of pages, But FOIA logs are heavily requested by people like me to kind of see what people are going after and getting ideas and, seeing did certain things yield responsive records and so on. So they're considered a frequently requested record, which is, again, in those amendments that if it's, I think the actual amendment, I'm going from memory quite a few years ago, but there was an amendment that if there were like more than 3 requests filed for a specific document, that they should put it online. And essentially then anytime a request comes in for it, you can forward them to the electronic reading room. FOIA case logs absolutely fit in that category. You'll see it with the FBI when a famous person dies. Kobe Bryant is one of the most recent that I saw, where we all requested Kobe's file, and he's got one. You can go on and download it, but the FBI put it on because so many people had requested it. So there are kind of certain thresholds that they'll put electronic records on. So sorry for that sidebar, but going back to what you were saying about the DIA. Yeah, 2018 is not the end. They just probably haven't reviewed and or released 2019 and beyond simply because of their backlog. The DIA backlog is one of the worst that I've seen. They are trying to get better. I brought this up as well. This is something I posted about a week ago. This was a request that I submitted November 15th, 2013. So you can see the response finally came on September 8th, 2021. I redacted the address. I said earlier, I don't mind my address out there. This is when I was still getting stuff years and years ago. I didn't live there, but I didn't have a private mailbox yet. And so I was in an apartment, and then I moved with my wife to a home that we rented, and then we ended up purchasing the home we have now. So I was moving, and so a decade ago, I would still use my parents' address, and then I would see my parents, and they'd bring me a stack of mail. And so I had everything sent there. That's why this is redacted. That's how old this was, because I stopped that years and years ago once I got my private box set up. And but you can see that this was 8+ years to get these documents from the DIA, and there weren't many of them. It was a total of, let me see here, 31 pages. So approaching a decade to get 31 pages of documents from the DIA. That's insane. Like, there'll be a point where I get old enough and I'll wonder if I'll be dead by the time they actually, respond to one of my requests. So, there's a lot. I
appreciate.
There's a lot to go into that. Yeah, no problem. It's just I wish there was a easier, shorter answer.
No,
for you.
like I said, it was one of those things of interest, and I do see, if people do want to look, it is very, very interesting if you go into the FOIA log. Again, on especially the newer, the newer logs, you can do the Control F and actually search for things, because they're digitized files.
Yeah.
The older ones aren't. So it is very interesting what you do see in there that other people are looking for or wanting answers to. So I don't know. You keep hearing me bring up this one area. So just take that for what it is.
Yeah.
It's very. I do hope you get some answers though at some point for your pending requests. And again, as always, keep it up, John.
I appreciate
really
that.
Appreciate the content you create.
No,
sir.
Thank you, and call in anytime. It's good to hear your voice again.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, couple comments I'll pull here. Yeah, those FOIA logs, by the way, are a great research tool. So for anybody who is dabbling in FOIA or you've been using them, those FOIAs are awesome. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for coming in here. Let me see. They can't use the billions we give in taxes to hire somebody to update the FOIA site. That is from Steve Franchise. Hopefully I have that pronounced correctly. You'd think that a lot of that would be updated or utilized, but they don't, sadly. FOIA seems to be last on their agenda. Hopefully with the war in Afghanistan, as much as of a disaster exit that became, the money that frees up, maybe they'll take some of that to help with these open record laws and accession websites and what they call PAL systems. What PAL systems are every agency has a different way to collect or have FOIA requests submitted to them. Some of them, not all, some of them use what are called a PAL system. I'll use the Air Force as an example. It has a specific username, password for your account, and you can only submit to the United States Air Force on that particular site. Then another agency will have their own PAL website. Let's say the Department of Treasury, I believe, is another one. And you need to go on there. Different login, password, you use the same. But their password requirements are insanity. And you have to have like 3 separate special characters, a mix of capital letters. You can't repeat. It really is that stringent and ridiculous. And so they're awful. There should be one central location that you can essentially submit all of your requests to whatever agency you want to in one different location. FOIA Online is something that is great. That's actually not a bad system at all, but not every agency uses it. That's the bad thing. And so sadly, it's a great foundation, but only a select portion of agencies actually use it. So will they update either specific FOIA sites or make one central location for submitting and maintaining FOIA requests and stuff like that? I hope so, because it's absolutely a mess. Preston Paget, Trapang photos need to be investigated further, not targeting balloons. Preston, I'm totally open for any more evidence, but here's the deal with it. For those who don't know about the USS Trapang photos, in short, there was a gentleman slash researcher by the name of Alex Mastretta who had received these photos. They were published decades ago by a magazine overseas from here in America. And they were these amazing, and why can't I just think to myself that I will pull this up for you guys? Hold on. Let me pull it up. I forgot. This is all behind the scenes, so it doesn't have to be all completely uniform. Okay, so here's like one of the Trapang photos. Let me zoom into the browser here. And so there's these extraordinary photos. And so he gets these photos. He got in touch with me. Also, Steve Murillo, who's another Los Angeles-based researcher, was connected to MUFON for a bit. And we all kind of tackled it in different ways. And the way that these photos are, here's the array of them. And they're pretty cool. I mean, I ain't going to lie. Like, if there's no context to it, you look at it and you go, holy mackerel, that's phenomenal, And so what we did was we just tried to figure out exactly what they were. And the way that I tackled it was, what were they doing out there? And I went and I dug up some of the documents. Let me see what I can get to load here. It's been a while since I looked at this page, so bear with me here. But I mean, what essentially we were able to confirm through documentation was that the ship really was where it was said to be. But really what it was doing was not very well known. So what I did was started researching, potential targeting balloons, while Steve Murillo had actually tracked down some of those that were directly involved. And they were like, yeah, we don't really remember anything odd or weird about the mission at all, and really couldn't add anything to it. One thing that I put forward was, when you look at the targeting balloons that were used generally in that era, how they very much coincided. Here's kind of another one, a little bit older though, targeting balloon, how they kind of coincided with what they were seeing on the periscope. So was it related? I don't know. But the problem with this is that you have very little evidence. As explosive as these photos are, we kind of dug as much as you can. Again, credit to Steve Murillo, who interviewed Admiral Sackett. He is a former military man himself. So Steve reached out to him and kind of approached it on that front. I just kind of approached it from the documents. And yeah, the Trapang was out in the vicinity of where it was said to be. But past that, what can you do? I mean, unless somebody comes forward and says, hey, I was I was the sonar operator. I was on the wherever. I saw these through the periscope. I took the pictures. Until that happens, what are we going to do? And does it deserve more? Let me see. I think I saw another comment fly through here from Preston, and I don't want to ignore it. Forgive me. other than the one that's on screen. I thought you had one more, Preston. I apologize if I'm missing it here. Oh, here. Even for the reason to look further, targeting balloons and good hypothesis, but that's clearly a giant triangular object. If that's what they use for practice, could account for UAP sightings. So one of the other things just about the triangular craft was, and this was submitted to me by an outside person, I didn't catch this, but the fact that these smoke regions were repeated, and what in essence that showed was photoshopping. Now, I kind of felt that that was maybe done at the time. This was years ago, so it wasn't really maybe Photoshop, but maybe a trick that a publishing house could do to make this more dramatic, because I think this was either a cover photo or obviously in their photo spread. But essentially, it was the same exact smoke. So that in itself introduces the fact that there's manipulation. There was a video that was submitted. They did it overseas, so I know that there's some spelling errors there. It was just a translation issue when they sent me the video. But with permission, I published it for them, and they went in and really showed photoshopping. My whole point with that is then when you scroll back to the clear, what you're calling triangle craft, how do we know at this point there was no manipulation when we can prove on another image there was? And as frustrating as that might be, to where you just throw the baby out with the bathwater, I don't do that, but it makes it all more difficult to try and figure out, okay, what does that mean? What is this going to do for us to keep digging? Because now, until somebody either digs up the negatives, and Alex Mastretta himself did quite a bit of research on that and could not come up with the original negatives. If that avenue's out, the witnesses are saying, no, we don't remember a giant alien spacecraft coming out of the ocean or diving into the ocean that we shot down or whatever, so they're not saying any of that. And nobody else has come forward. You can only deal with the evidence that you have in front of you and move on from there. There's that, what's that effect on the ocean where it creates like floating boats, like I'm drawing a blank, but whatever it is, something Morgana, I don't know, somebody in the chat, I'm sure we'll post it in there. But, that's also a possibility, that the shape of the object as it appears in the photo is not necessarily the shape of the object in the photo. So you have that possibility as well. So I felt that we stretched this as Fata Morgana. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so that's what it is, Fata Morgana, if I have that pronounced correctly. But I felt we stretched this as far as we could go, honestly, and there was nothing else we could do. Open to more information, but at this point, I felt that there was enough similarities to potentially naval targeting balloons, and some of these verifiable, pieces of history that came up that was just very, very close to what was being photographed in some of the photos, and potentially targeting these targets. They splash down, but then you have the photoshopping and stuff like that. So I just felt it was too much. It could very well be a balloon, but it's not Fata Morgana. And I just want to stress, that's like, here's this photo, like that's an example of one that again, like the floating ship, you look at that is absolutely what that effect looks like. So if I knew this would come up, I would have brought up more visuals for you. So I don't want to waste too much time trying to track down a similar looking boat or something on the horizon. But that is essentially what it would be. So in short, awesome case, super cool visuals. I love all that. You can't look at that and not go, man, that's really cool, because of the implications behind it. But sadly, we just we couldn't take it farther. I mean, we really couldn't. So anyway, great question, Preston. I really appreciate it. So at this point, I'm sorry to say, I'm going to have to cut it because I have to go get my son from his school and go pick him up. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the behind the scenes. So the segment that I recorded earlier will obviously be dropped on the channel as kind of a standalone segment, a little bit more cut together, and the hiccup we had technologically in the middle of it will be lifted out. In closing, these are awesome, great phone calls, except that Howard Stern guy. I'm going to look and see if it's the same phone number. Dude, stop calling. Like, we get it. Nobody really thinks it's funny. It's mostly a waste of time. So stop. I think it's funny that you have absolutely nothing else better to do. But now that you've done it back-to-back shows, I think everybody's kind of tired of it. So move on. Other than that, I'm not sure when the next behind the scenes will be. I do have some stuff cooking, so we'll see what might come into my mailbox here or what I can conjure up here for a fun video. And I'm sure that will happen sooner than later. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun for me. Bruce Wayne, Batman himself, in the chat. It's good to see you, Bruce. I believe you were the one that said when I couldn't do that one show live with the live chat, and I believe you said you missed the chat. If that wasn't you, I apologize. But if it was, I'm glad to see you in here and that we were able to do the chat and all have fun. So thanks again, guys. Hopefully we'll see you next time. All right. This is John Greenwald Jr. signing off. We'll see you next time.